Hey everybody, Zach here from Mythos Pedals, and today I'm doing something that you guys have asked me to do for a long time now, show you my guitar collection. So I have all my electrics here at the shop. I'm going to dive into all of them, talk about them, tell you a little bit about how I got them, and give you some playing examples of some of them. Maybe not all of them, but the ones that I think are kind of the highlights and standout instruments in the collection. I do have an acoustic guitar. It's a 1955 J50. It lives at home. It's an awesome guitar, and maybe on another video one day I'll show you that. But a little history about me and playing guitar. So I've been playing guitar for about 26 years as of right now, December 2025. And when I was 15, I got my first guitar. And my first guitar is this. This is the guitar I learned how to play on, a PV Raptor from, I guess, 99. I got it new at a guitar store that my dad handled the insurance for. My dad was an insurance agent for a long time, and he said, hey, you know, they have guitars. Do you want to go get one there? So for my 15th birthday, I wanted a guitar. I wanted one so bad, and my parents relented and took me to get a guitar. Nobody in my family really played guitar. My sister played piano. We were in band and stuff growing up, but there were no guitar players, and it was something that I always had hoped I could do. Now, I have a bit of a weird handicap. My left hand only turns halfway over. I broke my wrist. I broke both bones in my wrist when I was in like second grade. So this outer part of my arm, there's no joint there. There's just a bone and the joint, but when it broke, they didn't set it properly. And so that never really formed. This side is okay. But because of that, and because of the fact that it wasn't set properly, then I'm stuck like this. Luckily, I have double jointed elbows. So, you know, I kind of get around. And for those that watch the videos and see me play, you might notice I have a really weird grip on the guitar where I tuck in my arm up against the side of my body and play like this with my thumb over the bass side of the neck. And that's just how I have to play guitar. Now, when I was getting into guitar before my 15th birthday, I was really wanting to learn, and there were like some teachers at the middle school that would do lessons on like free period, and I would go and they just kind of shooed me away because I couldn't really do anything, at least at that point. They tried to get me to play left-handed, but I can't hold a pick in this hand. So it was altogether frustrating, but I knew that if I committed to it, that I could do it. And so my parents, being supportive parents that they were and still are, got me this. Now, funny story about this guitar. This is just a normal, you know, S-type copy. It's kind of pointy. It's got a little bit of like an Ibanez vibe. It kind of has like an Andy Timmons thing going on to it. Real flat neck, kind of thin. You know, the classic kind of PV pointed headstock that you would see on like a T60 or T40 guitar. But this is a fine guitar, and I am glad that I had it. And I wouldn't be here today if not for this guitar. But when we were going to pick this out, in the back, seeing as my dad knew these people, that he handled all their insurance, they had a vintage Strat. I believe it was a 68 or 69, big headstock. I think it was black, and or maybe it was white. I'm not entirely sure, but I remember that even at that point, I knew what that was, and my dad sat in my lap and he was like, oh, Zach, that's super cool. Because he didn't play guitar, but he knew enough about guitars to know that Fender was a name that meant something. And he offered to get it for me. And I, being the, I don't know why I was like this, but I never felt right asking for something fancy or nice growing up. I barely made Christmas lists growing up. But I said, no, Dad, you don't need to do that for me. This is fine. So I could have had a cool vintage Strat to start my journey with. Who knows where I would have ended up if I got that. But this is just fine. So this is my PV Raptor, and I've had it all these years. It kind of needs some TLC, but it does still work, and it sounds like you'd expect, like a S-type guitar. But this is where it started. So, yeah. This is my custom shop Stratocaster. Now, I've had a lot of Strats throughout my guitar playing journey, and they're not my favorite guitar. So you might ask, why buy a really fancy one? Well, it's one of those guitars that I feel like I need in my arsenal. As a pedal builder, as just a guitar player, I feel like I need a Strat. And like I said, I've never been a huge Strat guy, even though that's where I cut my teeth. This guitar, being a hardtail, has a totally sort of different vibe and personality to it, and I just kind of gravitated towards it. I love the hardtail nature of it. It totally changes the sound of the guitar, and I don't know, this was at Gruen Guitars, and I had some stuff to trade and just gravitated to this. This is an Olympic white. I think it's a 62 or 63 reissue. I can't remember. Actually, I'd have to go pull the case, but it's a great guitar. It has the ThroBak 63 maximum vintage Stratocaster pickups in it, and it just sounds awesome. I haven't changed anything else about it, probably won't. I put the ThroBaks in here not because the stock pickup sounded bad, but because we sell them at high voltage, and I wanted to have something that if people come by and want to hear a Strat with their pickups, then you can. And yeah, it has just a nice flame on the neck. It's not heavy, and it plays well. Although I will say that getting Strats kind of set up to how I like to play, mainly because of my hand, is a bit of a fight. But I've got this one dialed in, and I really like it. But yeah, this is my one and only true Stratocaster, and I don't foresee getting another one anytime soon. Man, sticking with the Fender theme, this is my custom shop Esquire. Every time I plug in this guitar, I'm taken aback by how good it is. Now, this thing is a bit of a mongrel, as you can tell. So it's kind of 57 spec. So this is like a 57V neck profile. At least that's what they call it. It's big. It's a big neck, but it's really comfortable. The edge of the fretboard is very well worn in feeling and really comfortable to play. The relic and the wear on this guitar really drew me in when I first saw it. Again, this is a Gruen's purchase. So all of my Fender guitars, 2 of them, that's all I have, were purchased at Gruen Guitars in Nashville, and this guitar drew me in mainly because of this. It has a left-handed bridge on it, which I think, and you guys may disagree with me, but I feel like tilting the bridge pickup on an Esquire or a Telecaster this-a-way makes more sense because you get more snap from the low strings, and the high strings are a little bit softer when they're coming through this pickup. So the wiring on this guitar is really interesting because it is, you know, Esquire, right? In the middle position, it's volume tone. In the all the way down position, it is just volume, no tone. And then what would be the neck, the back position, is the Eldred mod. And what you get with that is a really unique kind of cocked wah sound. So if I play that for you, you can kind of hear it. Now, it sounds best with a lot more gain. It really kind of punches through. But with the amount of gain we have going here, you should be able to hear it. Again, this guitar is just crazy. It's so resonant and lively. It just sustains forever. And I think what the Fender Custom Shop is doing right now is as good as it gets. If you want a TRS style that's very traditional, I don't know, it's kind of hard to beat it. But yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is my Swope Geronimo. This guitar is known as the show pony by the builder, Chris Swope. So Chris is a friend of mine, and you might know Swope from the Descendant vibrato system. He is the mastermind behind that, and normally his day is spent making Descendants, but occasionally he does make guitars. He used to make a lot more guitars, and this is from that era. Now this guitar was made for the 2015 NAMM show, the Summer NAMM show. And this guitar was in Nashville at the show, and then after that, Chris brought it to Carter, sold it to Carter, and this one and a blue one just hung out at the shop for a while. Now the blue one sold fairly quickly. This one never did. It just hung out and hung out and hung out, and I always liked it. I like the body shape. It's got kind of a big bobcat sort of body shape, and the finish, the burst on it, really kind of reminds me, especially with this black guard, of like a Melody Maker. And then the pinstriping, which is done by Hot Rod Huey, is kind of indicative of, I mean, it's classic car culture, which I have a fondness for thanks to my dad, but it's real Billy Gibbons-y to me. And this guitar sounds really unique. I'm not exactly sure what the scale length is. It's probably Fender scale, but these pickups, which pretty much everything on this guitar is done by Chris, these pickups are wound by him, are like gigantic Strat pickups. I thought they would be like a Jazzmaster thing. He said, no, it's like a big Strat. So I don't know what it looks like under the cover here, but I know that this guitar has that sort of just the perfect amalgam of what I like from Strats and Tellys. And there have been a few times where I thought about selling it, and then every time I plug it in and play it, I just can't get rid of it. It's so resonant. I just pulled it out of the case. It's been in the case for a minute, and it was still pretty much perfectly in tune. So Swope guitars are awesome. He doesn't make as many guitars these days, but occasionally he does. You can check out his website. But if you have any sort of jazz mastery style guitar and you're looking for an upgrade and maybe the mastery is not your thing, check out Descendant. They're really good stuff, and Chris is a great guy. Swope Geronimo. Kind of sticking with the Fender thing because Castedosa, Carlos Lopez, got his start as a builder at Fender. Eventually climbed the ladder to the master builder ranks, and then ventured out on his own and decided to make his own guitars. Now this, the Halcón, is one of his most recent offerings, and this guitar, baritone guitar, has, I don't know, kind of shaken me to my core because I've played a lot of great guitars, new and old. I find value and joy in almost every type of instrument. I think there are no bad guitars, well, within reason, but most guitars are inherently cool. Just have to find the thing that fits what you're trying to do with it, right? But this guitar is so incredibly special. Now, the story of this, we knew this guitar was coming, the Halcón, which is a really cool model from Castedosa, and we spec'd it out kind of like the normal spec. We were getting this for the 2025 NAMM show, or that time period, and you know, just placed the order, knew it was coming, and that was it, you know. When we get closer to the show, Carlos messages us and says, hey, I took some liberties with your spec. I hope you don't mind. And I think because Matthew Timmons, the manager here at Mythos and at High Voltage, told me that Carlos said, I'm going to get Zach. And got me he did, because he changed what was going to be a multiple Jazzmaster loaded, mastery equipped sunburst version of this into this, a brown sparkle, which is just a beautiful sparkle finish, wrap tail with 3 mini hums. And man, when I played it in California at the show, I was playing it at the Woodwire and Volt show, and I liked it, but it's chaos, it's loud, you can't really get to know the instrument. But when he shipped it to us after the show, I got it out of the case and hugged it and played what would be like a B major chord. And the whole guitar was resonating and like just vibrating my whole upper body. There's something that happens with really good guitars that I kind of equate to laying on a piano, and you can feel everything. And this guitar has that. So I looked at Matthew and said, I'm sorry, we can't sell this. I have to keep it. So it's mine. Carlos did get me. Now, Carlos and Castedosa, if you don't know, is just a handful of people. Carlos makes all the guitars. His wife, Stephanie, winds the pickups, and these mini hums are made for a baritone. They're made for this guitar, this, and then the Contours baritone. And they're perfect. The fact that this has a rotary 5-way switch, so you can get your 2 and 4 positions, even with humbuckers, is really unique and cool. It's a slightly shorter scale length so that you don't really notice how big it is. In fact, most people that play it are like, wait, this is a baritone, because you don't really notice it first. And I know it might sound crazy, like seeing it on a video here, but this is a wide angle lens, and in person, it just looks like a really big guitar. But what Carlos does to his necks, the way that he puts these things together is just magic, and I don't know. It's a lot of money. It's an incredible investment, but if you're into these things, they're just magic. And I feel very lucky and fortunate to have this in my collection, and I'm glad that I can sing the praises of Castedosa and Carlos for everybody to hear, because they're worth checking out. And if you're interested in one, hit us up at High Voltage and we can talk to you about getting your own. You knew it was coming. The Flying V, part of my recent obsession with one of my favorite bands of all time, Metallica. This is one of the Kirk Hammett Epiphone Vs, and this didn't kickstart my kind of guitar obsession with the gear of Metallica, but this was one that I was really excited about when it got announced, because I love these kind of late 70s, early 80s Flying Vs with the round headstock, which this guitar has. This has some really great spec. It has Gibson pickups that are like the 70s tribute, so kind of like a hot sort of T-top sort of thing. All the things that you would want from that sort of era are here, without some crazy stuff like the fretboard isn't a mile high and the body isn't crazy thin. It's, for all intents and purposes, a pretty normal Flying V, but I just love this thing. It's awkward, it's not the easiest guitar in the world to play because of how awkward it is, but it is really cool. And I don't know, at some point I might put EMG pickups in this. I have some of the Bone Breaker pickups, but I have those in another guitar, and I don't know, I kind of like the passive nature of the pickups in this, because it just, I don't know, harkens back to the early days of hard rock and metal, because EMGs hadn't really been invented yet. So this guitar, through a cranked amp with an aggressive right hand, just really rules, and I don't know, I really dig it. So this is the Kirk Hammett Epiphone V. Okay, the Kirk Hammett love continues. The LTD KH602. This guitar from the ESP import line kind of kick-started my love affair, my interest, my reinvigoration, as it were, with Metallica and learning those riffs and learning how to play like that and kind of rewind my hands and my brain, as it were, to go back to all the things I learned when I was a kid. And while this guitar is polarizing to some because of the skull inlays and whatnot, it is a fantastic instrument. The neck on these guitars is surprisingly big. It's not like super fat. It's not a, you know, huge Les Paul neck, but it's got some shape to it. It's not really flat. And it's really easy to play. This guitar just is kind of surprising in how good it sounds. These are the stock EMG Bonebreaker pickups, which is the Kirk signature pickup, kind of a hotter bridge, a more traditional sounding neck pickup. These pickups into a cleaner amp. I plug them into my T-Rock at home. They sound fantastic clean. It's kind of shocking. It's not a guitar you would, you know, normally see on a lot of clean guitar gigs, but it sounds really good. I've not done a whole lot in the way of modifications on this guitar. I changed all the fine tuners to brass because some of the early older Floyd Roses have brass fine tuners, and I just think that's a cool look. Some of Kirk's old guitars had those, and I just really like it. And then that's kind of it. I have one of the little Floyd Rose setup tools. This is the hex hider that is magnetic, and it just goes on the back of the headstock there and stays on the tuner, so you don't have to worry about having a tool like in the bag. It's just on the guitar. So because some Floyd Rose guitars don't have everything, you know, bolted to the back of the headstock, and this is just a neat way to have that tool readily accessible. But this guitar just rips. The Floyd Rose on it is pretty good. It rattles a little bit. So I don't know. If you know in the comments how to solve that without pulling all of this out and putting in a whole new Floyd, let me know, because I would like to fix some of that rattle. But man, what a fun guitar. And for doing the thing that it's made to do, it excels at that. And oh, there is one other modification. So you might notice there's a hole right there. There's actually a hole here too, but that was an accident. So underneath this is a claw assembly that I'll put down in the description that replaces the normal screwdriver adjusted claw that you have on any sort of floating tremolo with a piece that is adjusted with a Allen key and like a grub screw sort of thing. So it's so much more less of a headache to adjust the setup on this guitar than it would be if it had the normal traditional claw, because all you have to do is put an Allen key in there and you can move the springs backwards and forwards. It's a cool thing. Again, I'll put it in the description. Be very careful though with these, because the screws that come with it in this guitar would probably have poked through the top. So you have to get some shorter screws when you're installing this little thing. But I think if you have anything with a floating bridge system and you do a lot of string swaps or setups, it's worth looking into. And yeah, check the description on that. But this is the KH602, and I just love this guitar. I struggle to play like James, but this guitar makes me feel a special kind of way. This is my 80s tribute Gibson Explorer in Alpine White. So this guitar was a really weird one. Gibson announced the 80s Explorer a number of years ago in ebony black. And everyone was like, where's the white one? And so it was rumored, people were talking about it, but it never really saw the light of day. And then boom, all of a sudden it showed up on Gibson.com. And I wanted one so bad because James Hetfield, his riffing, this guitar in particular, was just something that I thought was about as cool as it gets so far as like heavy metal, rock and roll, guitar, paraphernalia maybe, I don't know. But this guitar showed up on the Gibson demo shop, and there were two of them. This one was the lighter one. I don't know exactly how much it weighs. Maybe I'll put it up on screen. Oh. Great price, because used, these things new, or these things secondhand, when people had bought them new, would sell for really big money. Not as much as the vintage ones, but a lot for just, you know, a USA Explorer. So I got it. I was kind of nervous. You know, you never know what you're going to get when you buy some random instrument you've never played. And this showed up, and I was just shocked at how good it was. Now, stock, this thing came with their like 80s tribute set, which admittedly sounded great, but I wanted to go for more of an Injustice sort of thing, like a, you know, later 80s sort of Metallica era, and installed EMGs. This is the Zakk Wylde set, so it's an 81 and 85. James had a 60. But how often are you playing the neck pickup anyway? I wasn't too worried about it. And this guitar, being from the demo shop, already had a bunch of dings and dents and little chips and cracks in the finish, and I don't care. It means I can play this and not worry about it. And strung it up with the Papa Het strings, and this guitar just rips. Like I said, it's incredibly resonant, and I hope this kind of comes through here. Just it just has a ton of sustain. The whole guitar is vibrating, and I don't know. It's so special. I put the dome knobs on it, and anybody that comes into the shop, usually this guitar is hanging right behind me, and people go, "What's that?" Because it's, you know, it's reminiscent of one of the most iconic guitars in all of metal, and I just love this thing. So, 80s Explorer. Moving into PRS territory, this is a pretty recent acquisition that I'm really excited about, honestly. So, I love PRS guitars. They've been something that I've really grown to respect as I've gotten older as a guitar player and kind of progressed into who it is I want to be as a player. I'm still figuring that out. You know, I'm not anywhere close to the guitar player that I want to be, but PRS guitars kind of help get me there. And this guitar is a Bernie Marsden SE from, I honestly don't know when this was made. I don't know how to read the SE serial numbers, but this one was used on Guitar Center's website, and I have a buddy, Jacob McDougall, that works at a Guitar Center. He's a manager at a Guitar Center, and I gave him a call and said, "Hey, that Bernie, what can we do on it? Let's make it happen." He gave me a great deal, and I got it, and immediately fell in love with the neck. Now, the craziest thing is that the neck has this candy cane flame to it. It's just nuts. For an import guitar to have figuring like that, what? Sorry, it's hard to tell. Like this, is pretty wacky. And you couldn't see this in the photos, you know. But I like the finish. I don't know what this finish is. I don't think it's the normal Bernie Marsden finish. I think this was like a limited thing that they did. And I have subsequently hot rodded it. I bought some of the lampshade knobs from PRS, which, you know, I think are some of the best new guitar knobs being made today. And these are 5909 pickups that are pretty hot. I accidentally installed them out of phase, which is funny because I couldn't find a wiring diagram for these pickups. So I just hit my multimeter, found what was hot, wired it up, and lo and behold, out of phase. But that's pretty cool because you have two volumes, so you can out of phase the sound of it pretty easily. But this guitar is just neat, and these guitars don't go for a ton of money. Not all of them, I think, look this good. This has a really nice top. It has a little bit of movement, even though it's a veneer. And yeah, it's nice and lightweight. But in a video that Andertons did with Bernie years ago, when he was with us, he's no longer with us, he talked about how this neck is the neck of the Beast, his very famous burst. And, you know, I don't know if this is what the Beast feels like. I've never played that guitar, but it really does have a old school vintage Les Paul neck profile on it with, you know, kind of a Explorer sort of control layout. So I dig this guitar. At some point, I'm going to put on a new PRS bridge. I may change the pickups. These are pretty hot. And honestly, I loved the look of the stock Zebra pickups, but PRS doesn't make squabbins, the square bobbin pickups, in Zebra. I also changed the pickup rings because I love the new PRS pickup rings, but, oh, and the tuners too. I did a lot of mods on this thing. It was already great. This made it a lot better. And yeah, what a cool guitar. The PRS SE Bernie Marsden. All right, so this is my PRS McCarty. This is a 2022 model, so fairly recent. I got this guitar from my friend Jacob, the visual guy on YouTube. If you don't know Jacob, go check him out. He does incredible pickup demos, pedal demos. He's an awesome player and a good friend, and he had this. He kind of went on a PRS bender and got a bunch of guitars and decided that the DGT was the one he liked the best. But this guitar, he brought it to the shop to consign, and I said, I think I have to buy this because it's very light. I, again, don't know the weight of it. I just know that it feels light to me. The neck shape is just fantastic. For somebody that loves vintage style guitars, the neck shape on this just feels immediately familiar. The pickups, the 5815 LTs, sound great. They split and still sound good. So this McCarty has kind of become my favorite guitar. Now, I know I've made a lot of videos saying, look, this is the best guitar I've ever played. But, you know, PRS continues to shock me. And I think we all go through that, where we are trying guitars and you find stuff that really just inspires you. And this guitar is one of those. Now, like I said, it's become like one of my main tester guitars because it covers such a wide array of sounds. So just going into my Apollo here, I'm running the Tone King plugin, and the number of sounds you can get from this guitar are pretty remarkable. It floors me every time I play it. So this guitar has kind of quickly become, it's not my number one. We'll get to number one. I'm gonna save it for last. But this guitar has really become one of my favorites. And I don't know, if this place was on fire, there's a lot of stuff I would try to save, but this is definitely one of those things. So, PRS McCarty. Last but not least, my PRS SE 56. This is one of the 40th anniversary models that they released in 2025, and I'm continually blown away by this instrument. It is just fabulous. Now, how this came into my purview was none other than our friend Mr. Dylan Adams. Dylan said, hey, there's a guitar coming out by PRS that I think you would like. He had one early that he was just over the moon about, and after it came out, he, spilled all the details and just said, look, it's one of the best feeling, best playing style of single cut guitars I've come across that wasn't just obscene, crazy money. Vintage, whatever. And Dylan was right. So I was really honored to be able to go to the 40th anniversary party at NAMM. And granted, there was a lot of people there. A big pond, and I was a very small fish, but it was so cool to be a part of that. And now to have something that was honoring that 40th anniversary of just continually working to make better and better instruments. It's really cool to have this piece in my collection. Now, this guitar is pretty lightweight. The only thing I've changed about it is the switch tip. I put a little Catalan switch tip on it because I'm a nut, and I just like the way it looks a little better. But the neck on this guitar is so comfortable. The McCarty 3 pickups in this just sound perfect in this guitar. But the funny thing about this guitar, and hopefully based on the recording in this video and the guitars that are about to follow, is you look at this and go, oh yeah, Les Paul. But it doesn't sound like a Les Paul. It doesn't at all sound like a Les Paul. It has some of those qualities to it, you feel it, you in isolation, you're like, man, that sounds like a killer single cut guitar. But when you compare it to, an actual Gibson style single cut guitar, it's very different. And I think that's good because it warrants having something like this in a collection, especially for a guy like me who already has a handful of really killer Les Pauls. So this guitar, the SC56, I don't know how many of these are still out there, but if you get the opportunity and you really have been curious to try a single cut from PRS, you cannot do any better than this guitar. It's absolutely astonishing. So pretty excited to have this in my collection, and I foresee this one hanging around for a long time. It's incredibly comfortable to play. It sounds awesome, and it's just flat out beautiful. So there you go. Time to get into Gibson territory. This is my 335 reissue. This is a 59 reissue 335 that I got by trading a bunch of stuff at Guitar Center, of all places, here in Nashville. And this guitar was something that I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but I was doing a pedal event up at CME, Chicago Music Exchange, and Matthew and I were there slinging Mythos, hanging out, and down in the basement where they film a lot of the videos, David, one of the high-ups in the guitar department over there, was pulling out all the cool stuff and pulled out a 1960 335 that had once belonged to Mr. Dave Cobb. Now, that guitar was a Sunburst and completely vexed me. It just sounded perfect. I had that guitar and I plugged it into an original Tweed Twin, turned it up, and it just sounded like records, you know? And from that point until this came into my life, I was just like, I gotta get a 335. I'd never had one. This is my first 335. I've had some Epiphones over the years, some Dots and stuff before they were doing like a more proper sort of 335 reissue, but I knew I wanted something in the Dot era, you know, 58, 59, 60 sort of reissue sort of idea. So I went to Guitar Center and played everyone they had, and they were all like pretty good. I was trying to decide which one was going to be the one, and Tony down at the Guitar Center in Nashville, the high-end room, said, I think I have a blonde one. And so he went in the back, lo and behold, he had this brand new in a case, pulled it out. I just, yep, this is the one. This is the one. We plugged it in. Matthew, McKinley, Jeff, we were all hanging out, the whole team. And we all knew this was the one. They knew as soon as I started playing it, and I knew as soon as I started playing it. And that's why it's good to go shopping with your friends. It's bad because they can be a terrible influence. Get it. But also, it's good to know that it's not just you in your head, and especially if you have friends who are honest with you. But this guitar is just phenomenal. I did change the pickups. Now, the stock custom buckers, if you follow Mythos or Dipped in Tone and stuff, you'll know that I don't really like custom buckers. A lot of other Gibson pickups I think are fantastic, but the custom buckers just do not do it for me. So I hit up my friend John at ThroBak and said, what would be the best set for my 59 reissue 335? Here's what I want. And we went with the ER Custom, which is kind of more of a patent number style pickup, has a shorter mag and stuff, but in this guitar, it's just perfect. And as you heard from me playing it, the middle position is out of phase, which I asked John to do that, to flip the magnet on the neck, because I don't know, I feel like of all out of phase guitar sounds, it's the most acceptable to have them on a big hollow guitar. I don't know why, that's just what I think. And this guitar just rules. When I was swapping the pickups, I decided, you know what? I am not going to get in here and solder to this. So I pulled the custom buckers all the way out, snipped the 2-conductor lead right at the base plate of the pickup, put a quick connector on there, and then soldered the other into these. These have enough lead to go down to where they can be soldered in the traditional way. But I wound all that wire up, plugged it in, zip tied it together so it wouldn't be flopping around in the guitar. And it has not given me a moment's worry since I did that. And this guitar is honestly one of the best sounding humbucker guitars I have. I don't just think it's the ThroBaks, although that definitely helps. It just sounds perfect. So 59 reissue 335. Okay, moving into Les Paul territory. This is my 2024 R4 reissue, a 1954 reissue Les Paul. I got this guitar from my friends at Wildwood Guitars. Now, Being friends with a guitar store is great, but it's also very dangerous because if you happen to say to someone, you know, I've always wanted a 2P90 gold top with a wrap tail, eventually they'll figure out a way to get you. And that's what happened with this thing, but I'm glad they did because it's a really fantastic guitar. So what drew me to this is I've always loved the 2P90 wrap tail thing, or just wrap tails in general. I think that they are one of the coolest configurations of classic Gibson style instruments. And I've always really wanted to have something like this, mainly because of like Freddie King and those sort of iconic bluesmen playing guitars kind of like this. But I just think that it's such a classy looking guitar. And this one in particular has a really deep gold finish. In addition to that, they also had a set of original speed knobs. So the speed knobs on this guitar are of the era. I don't know what year they're from, but they are old. And so it was kismet, right? So I swapped the knobs on this. The pickups, the neck is a Duncan Antiquity P90, and the bridge is still the stock pickup because the Duncan Antiquities, the route on a Gibson pickup, for this style guitar anyway, is a little different than the base plate of a Duncan. So you can get them in there. It's just finicky. But honestly, the stock pickups in this guitar sounded great, and I really like it. It's funny how quacky this guitar is. So using the same Tone King plugin, if I turn up and go from the neck to the middle, you can hear just how much quack this guitar has. And that was something that really drew me to the sound of this instrument because I didn't know what to expect. I bought it blind, and when it showed up, I was like, wow, I've not heard a Les Paul kind of do that. So here's the neck. And here's the middle position. So that was just amazing. I've had multiple P90 Les Pauls in the past, like specials and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, this guitar just has a ton of quack. And man, every time I get it out and play it, this is one that kind of sits in my head on the chopping block. But every time I get it out and play it, I'm like, it's too good. But yeah, 54 reissue. As we wind down on this list, I have a really cool Les Paul here. This is a 2016 R8 in ebony. So this guitar I actually got for high voltage from the Amigo Guitar Show. And after I started playing it, I was like, man, I think this is a really good one. And it is. So it became mine, which, that's the way it goes. This guitar I got mainly because when I got my first custom shop Gibson, I had a black RO. So an ebony RO that looked just like this, and I adored that instrument. When I got the last guitar on this list, I thought, ebony, black guitar, I'm not going to play it that much, not compared to something with a big fancy burst on it. I was wrong. I shouldn't have sold it, and I had regretted it ever since. But when I saw this guitar, and more importantly, when I played this guitar, I was just excited of the prospect of having another black Les Paul in my collection. And there's something to me really cool and unique about those black burst instruments that I think is really special. The fact that Gibson oftentimes back in the day would just paint over a burst in ebony is wild to me, and also kind of cool. So I put all the the right plastics on this thing. I think black bursts look best with black bell knobs. So these are some of the knobs that we sell at high voltage. But this has become the throwback tester guitar for the shop. So if you come to high voltage and you want to play throwbacks, this guitar lives here and you can play them. So currently it has ThroBak 57 steel heads in it with the dry A2 magnets. I really like it. This guitar had been played a lot before I got it, and it has a bunch of checking and wear. You can kind of even see right here that it's worn through the finish a little bit. And all of this is honest. This is not Murphy Lab. This is not relicked after the fact. This was just played. And I kind of love that about it. It needs a new nut and could probably stand to have a fret dress maybe. This thing has definitely had a bit of a hard life, but it sounds good and it feels good. The neck is kind of that classic 58, a little bit chunky, not too big. Most vintage bursts and guitars of that era, we kind of have painted them into this this mythical picture where they all had gigantic necks on them, and that is far from the truth. They all had very normal kind of guitar necks and are very comfortable to play, and this one's no exception. So I love this guitar. It is cool to have an ebony Les Paul back in the collection, and I knew it was meant to be when I took this home just to show my wife, and she went, "Oh my God, is that your guitar?" Like, it meant something to her because she regretted me selling that guitar as well. So it means something to me for a multitude of reasons, and yeah, just a killer Les Paul. Okay, last but certainly not least is this guitar, my 2014 R9. This guitar is everything to me. It feels like home. Whenever I feel down on myself about my playing, or if I'm just in a bad mood, I play this guitar and it lifts my spirits. I don't know. We all have those things, regardless of what hobby you kind of have in your life. Something is the thing that will pull you out of it. And this guitar is that for me. This guitar was kind of an engagement gift to myself. And since I got it in 2014, I've changed most things on it, if not once, then multiple times. And it's become, you know, kind of a representation of who I am as a guitar fan and a guitar player. Now, the quick story is I'm friends with Tom Murphy, and this guitar, when it first came into my life, was a washed cherry finish, a very bright red to bright yellow finish. And it looked fine, but in talking to Tom at Carter way back when, I said, man, I wish my guitar had more of a pearly gates sort of burst to it. And Tom said, hey, let's refinish it. So the top on this guitar was refinished by Tom Murphy to have more of a unfaded pearly gates look. Tom has a book that has a photo of pearly before that guitar really faded, and this color is our representation of that. The flame on this guitar is just nuts. I love how mismatched it is. It's not perfect, but it has a lot of movement and depth to it. Currently, it's got ThroBak SLE 101s, and they just sound great in everything, but in a Les Paul, especially one like this, they sound perfect. This thing has had a bunch of pots because I've burned them up swapping pickups, a bunch of different plastics. Most things have been swapped on it at least once. I think the tuners are stock. The strap buttons I aged, but they are stock. The back plastics are stock. I think the jack plate is stock, and the pickguard bracket is stock. And the nut stock. But pretty much everything else I've swapped and tweaked and stuff. So it's just one of the best guitars, and I'm so glad to have it in my collection. Now, I know this has been very self-serving and altogether ridiculous. You know, no one necessarily needs this many instruments, but for me, this is the thing that brings me joy outside of my family. This is the thing that I love the most, and these things are things I've worked hard for. Nothing on this video was given to me. Granted, I got some deals on things, but nothing was free. This is all stuff that I bought with money that I earned. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. I know this is altogether ridiculous, but I appreciate you sticking around to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to go to mythospedals.com and check out all the pedals we make, or go to highvoltageguitars.com and check out the guitars and parts that we sell there. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.